Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from PaulGaleNetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for video game news. It is August 27th, 2020, and these are the top stories of the day. Now, in today's video game news, there are several videos as part of the news updates. Some of them are on the longer side, so I won't be playing them in their entirety, but I'll let you know what those are as I play them and point you to the right direction that if you want to see them in their entirety, you can. The first thing that I'm going to show you happens to be Fortnite Chapter 2 and its Season 4 Battle Pass gameplay trailer. This is a minute 17 seconds, so I'm going to let this one play out completely, but you'll see what I mean as we go along in today's video game news updates and why not everything is going to be played completely. So, without further ado, here we go. I think this is pretty cool.
I know I brought these mighty warriors here to defend our reality. High above this strange land is where we'll prepare to stand against him, Galactus, devourer of worlds.
You know, just last week
Who we are.
in video game news with PGN, I showed you that Thor is coming to Fortnite, but it's a lot more than just Thor, as we're seeing today. And Wolverine! Which brings me to this. Why I'm wearing my Wolverine shirt, bub.
Now, we will explore this land, regain our
Pretty big partnership, gotta say.
claim our memories. Join us.
Nice crossover.
We will defeat
Avengers, X-Men, some Guardians of the Galaxy representation. And that's the Nexus War Battle Pass. Buy now! If you're a big fan of Fortnite, you probably already know that, and you see it live and available. But I thought I'd give that a good highlight today because the Marvel IP is huge, Fortnite is huge, and the two of them coming together is pretty cool. I like Fortnite. I'm not particularly great at it, but I have fun with the series, with the game, and I know a lot of people love it, so I'm happy for you, and I'm looking forward to it myself because, like I said, I really like comics, I really like superheroes, I'm a longtime Marvel fan, and I happen to also like Fortnite, so all around cool news. Coming up next, this is coming to us from a Polish YouTube channel called Maniak Gaming. That's Maniak with a K, and this is one of the videos that I'm not going to show in its entirety because it's like 17 minutes long or so, 16 minutes and change long. But here we get to see what the Xbox One X looks like next to a Nintendo GameCube. Being measured, dziękuję bardzo, that means thank you very much in Polish. And we get to see here what the system looks like compared to, like I said, GameCube. We've got the VCR, Xbox One, the Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Edition, the NES Mini. You've got the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X, PlayStation 4 Pro, etc. It's pretty cool. You know, talk about a system that has a lot of different opinions regarding its look. You know, it's a tower, it's a refrigerator, it's slick, it's plain. I like it, I hate it. I think it's cool, I think it's different. It's definitely kind of shocking. From a design standpoint, it makes sense in terms of how they're trying to keep the unit cool, sucking air out through the top. Of course, you could lay the Xbox Series X on its side. But anyways, that's a look, a little bit about that. If you want to check it out more, Polish YouTube channel, Maniak Gaming, Maniak with a K, and it's just called Xbox Series X. That's the name of his video. So check him out. I have one more still that I grabbed from earlier and gives you a good look at the console lined up with some other stuff. You got PlayStation Slim off to the side, an Xbox controller. Cool stuff. Next up. Now, if you watched Video Game News with Paul Gale Network last week, you know that I spent a lot of time on sales because I love sales. I love numbers coming out of Japan. Famitsu charts are great. I'm going to continue this every Thursday in my updates. However, I'm not going to spend as much time because for the first day I felt like it was necessary to explain some backstory behind it. But going forward, I'm just going to break it down, chime in a little bit per title or anything that's unique, and then move on. So this once again comes to us from Chris1964, who breaks down into really nice charts the Famitsu sales data and previously Media Crate that's coming out of Japan every week. The following data represents week 34 of 2020, which takes place between August 17th and August 23rd. This information is acquired from the ResetEra.com forums that I love frequenting. So thank you very much for providing this. And here we go. We've got Animal Crossing at the number 1 spot, busting out 42,000 units in sales. Ring Fit Adventure got a nice increase, I should say, 17% from the previous week with 30,000 copies sold. Ghost of Tsushima also with the bump, cracking out 17,000. Clubhouse 51 Games continuing to do well. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the game that never leaves. Here it's over 3 years old, another 13,000 like nothing. Baseball coming us from Konami, 9,500. Paper Mario hanging in there, another 9,000, about to hit that 250,000 mark within a couple more weeks. Pokemon Sword and Shield still doing well, another 8,000, almost at 3.8 million. Splatoon 2, another 7,000, over 3.5 million. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, 7,000, 3.8 million, and rising. Now, when it comes to these figures, they don't represent digital sales. So take a look at your Animal Crossing, your Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Pokemon, Paper Mario, Splatoon 2. They're actually all doing better than what you see here. This is also pretty big, 9-1. It's going to be interesting to see how that changes, if it changes, when PlayStation 5 enters the market this holiday season. And will Xbox Series X make it out in Japan this holiday season? That remains to be seen. Can it crack a top 10 in Japan with any of its games? Not the most likely, but I wouldn't, rule it out completely either. One of the important things I wanted to break down really quickly, though, is Splatoon 2 in particular, because here the game came out July 21st, 2017, okay? That's a full 3 years, a month, and a week ago, and it's still charting. The reason why this is getting a special highlight because it's been 3 years and it's still doing really well, and this is for a game that primarily requires online to make it work. Yeah, you could play Splatoon 2 offline, you could play it with friends locally. It has a little bit of a story mode with platforming and whatnot. You could do the dance music kind of game, but the meat and potatoes of this title really is the online 4 versus 4, right? And a big controversial thought was that in September of 2018, when Nintendo rolled out the Nintendo Switch Online service, which made us start to pay to play video games online, that no one's going to buy Splatoon 2 anymore. And that's not the case, obviously, right? Here we are, 1 month shy of 2 years later into the Nintendo Switch Online service, and Splatoon 2, seemingly unaffected, still doing very well, has outsold its predecessor by a good margin, and continues to chart. So there you go, props to Splatoon 2. Next up is a look at hardware sales data. And, every week in Japan, this will change. I'm primarily showing you this data right here. This section right here below breaks down into the individual differences between like Nintendo Switch Lite and Switch, Xbox One X and Xbox One S, and so forth. But this general section, changes week in, week out. You see big drops all around, but the reason is the previous week Japan had its holiday Obon, as it's known. It takes place throughout that week. Nintendo has more stock that week, push harder sales, and people see it available, people buy it. without question. So that's why you see this drop. It doesn't represent, you know, a lack of interest. It's just a lack of stock available. They put more out this week so that they could, you know, sell well to the people that are celebrating Obon Week in Japan and get big numbers. But still, the difference between Nintendo Switch at 70,000 and second place 3DS at 1,171 is pretty crazy. It's also kind of crazy that 3DS was able to beat PlayStation 4 for this week at least. You got PS4 on its last legs, really, 883, Xbox One 24. Something pretty interesting to note is that Nintendo Switch is at 14,916,641 units sold in Japan, and that's just whoa, where are we? What's going on here? Sorry, folks. We'll see how that turns out in the video later on. Almost 15 million. We're 83,000 and change away from hitting 15 million. To put this in comparison to last year, at this time, at week 34 in Japan last year, Nintendo Switch was at 1,862,000 units sold for the year. Right now, in this year, it's at 3.5 million. That's a huge jump. We have 18 weeks to go, and we're already at 3.5 million. This officially is higher than all of Nintendo Switch's 2017 in Japan, all of Nintendo Switch's 2018 in Japan, and Nintendo Switch in total in 2019 did 4,493,000. So it's only like 900,000 away from beating the entire last year of Japan, which was a very successful year. Something tells me that Nintendo Switch hasn't peaked yet in Japan, and that 2021 could very well likely be the peak, could top 2020, especially if Nintendo could get better stock out there, and if the rumors are true of a Nintendo Switch Plus coming out, we're going to see a bigger year. But yeah, Nintendo Switch is definitely topping 5 million for this year in Japan, and this number right here, within a week or 2 weeks to be safe, we're going to see 15 million units lifetime, and that's just awesome for a system. Anyways, that's enough for sales. I set out to keep it short. That's about as short as I could go. All right. Next up, a little bit of single-player footage from Star Wars Squadrons. We're going to check this out together. I'm looking forward to the game because I like Star Wars, and I loved Star Wars Rogue Squadron.
The story of these rival squadrons will push the war to the brink and define the galaxy for years to come. I look forward to seeing you in combat October 2nd.
Now, this is one of those that I wasn't going to play the whole thing. It is 3 minutes and 22 seconds long. If you want to check it out on EA's YouTube page, it's called Star Wars Squadrons Official Single Player Preview. Came out today, August 27th. It gives you a pretty good look back and forth of what the game looks like. I don't know if it's going to be this grand, cool story mission-based game comparable to Star Wars Rogue Squadron 1, 2, and 3, or if the focus of it is primarily online, multiplayer. Probably the latter is true, but it doesn't mean that the single player won't be compelling and that it won't have a story. I just don't know if that'll be the main focus of it. But regardless, it comes out October 2nd. We'll find out soon enough anyways, and it does at least look fun. It does at least look cool, so I'm kind of excited. Next up, video game news, but more so of a little bit of a Netflix thing right here in particular. Resident Evil is coming to Netflix. So it's kind of a cross of video game news going into movie territory, or I should say TV territory. It's been greenlit that Netflix will be getting a Resident Evil TV series developed for it. I think that it could potentially be cool. A lot of the content that we get on Netflix is nice Castlevania was handled very well. If you haven't checked it out, and if you like Castlevania or if you like anime, check out the Castlevania series on Netflix. Also, The Witcher with Henry Cavill, I thought was great. I'm stoked for a season 2, and I was a big fan of season 1, so cross your fingers that Resident Evil on Netflix will also be solid. And last but not least, and this is another one that I'm not going to play in its entirety. It's 7 minutes and 32 seconds long, but here is an extended gameplay demo of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart for PlayStation 5. We'll push play and see where we go, alright? Coming to us from Insomniac Games, captured on PS5. Now, when they first showed off this game, I thought, like, that looks good, and that looks fun. It's nice when these types of games are starting to get closer and closer in polygon richness and overall visual fidelity in game to something like a Toy Story, you know? The sophistication of the environment and the complexity of how much you see is certainly greater than, you know, like Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, right? But the raw polygon model sophistication per character, the amount of shadows and proper contours, the lighting effects on each furry animal, if you will, I wouldn't say necessarily is yet past Toy Story 2. But you gotta give it props because there's so much going on. The size and scope is so big that, okay, does Ratchet here look as good or as detailed as Woody or Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story 3? No, I would say that's for sure not. But the overall environment is definitely past Toy Story 2. And individual character models, you know, close to that fidelity. It's kind of funny to use Toy Story as a marker like that, but really the Toy Story series has been around for quite a while. So if you look at these 10 or less year gaps in between them, you see how much that they're continuing to evolve graphically. So it's sort of a good basis of, these cartoony looking games, how good are they looking compared to those movies? I know I'm talking a lot throughout this, but it's mostly a gameplay look. Story's not as important to pay attention to right now. Just observing the game, the visuals. We already know that you could bounce in and out seamlessly throughout worlds, throughout different Ratchet and Clank games over the years, so that's pretty cool. That's going to be a good nostalgia trip for many people. You see cool weapons, lots of visual flair, right? You know what? My first look at the game, I said, definitely looks better than what Ratchet and Clank looked like on PlayStation 4, but not by leaps and bounds. But what it did look a lot better than PS4's Ratchet and Clank game was the environment, the scope. It was more ambitious. The worlds looked deeper, more full, more stuff going on in the background, greater draw distance, more visual effects. And my opinion still hasn't really changed. I'm very impressed with how much is going on and how detailed things are. I think it's really cool that you could so seamlessly hop in between, these dimensional rifts like this and go into a different world and no loading involved. And also, what I said in addition still remains true. Side by side, if you looked at a screenshot, still shot of Ratchet now versus then, I think that you would say it's safe to say he looks better, but not by this tremendous leap and bound amount better. But no diss to the game. That's not a knock. It overall is a big improvement, and I think it's probably also going to be a much better game. So, looking forward to it. Now, we don't know yet if it's a day one launch game, but it is a launch window title, and that's big because this thing could come out, a week before Christmas, only being 4 weeks after the launch of the PS5 itself, and really be a heavy hitter for Sony for the holidays. Not that it's a kid's game per se, but it's going to be attractive to kids because it's a cool looking cartoony character. And if you're a fan that's old enough to have been a fan of the series for long enough, you're an adult like me, plus or minus X amount of years, and just looking forward to the next installment of the franchise because that is fun. How long into this are we? 5 minutes. So actually we made it quite a bit. I think that's enough for now. I'll skip ahead to the end. Yeah. It's a little bit greater of a look than we got in the initial reveal, but
We are too late.
not by a ton necessarily. Actually looks quite reminiscent of that first trailer. Yeah, there we go. That does it for video game news today for August 27th. I hope you liked watching with me. Appreciate your time. Any comments, any feedback is appreciated. If you liked the video, click like. Thank you. Helps out the channel. If you want to see more of this type of content from me, feel free to subscribe, as that's something that I'm grateful for too. Thank you again. This is Paul Gale Network signing out. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And see you tomorrow for more video game news with PGN. Bye.